What's up, guys? CJ and I just finished shooting a finesse crankbait video. We were drinking some beers, and it got us on the topic of, we should do this same thing on finesse jerkbait. So while we're here and we still have some cold beer, we are going to break down our 5 favorite finesse jerkbaits. These are jerkbaits that are 1/4 ounce or smaller. So we're going tiny here, not like junior size stuff, actual true finesse. There's times when it's critical to downsize, so we're going to break down our favorites. If you'd like to join us, grab a beer of your own, and let's do it. Let's go. Welcome to the Hookup Tackle. The Hookup Tackle is the world's largest showcase of Megabass products, featuring baits and colors not found at any other dealer. The Hookup also offers a wide display of OSP, Evergreen, Depths, Lucky Craft, Jackal, and many more. The Hookup Tackle is owned and operated by family, is staffed by guides and verified tackle nerds who love helping anglers elevate their craft. If you're in the Phoenix area, we'd love to have you stop by our showroom and check out the wonderful world of Megabass and the Hookup for yourself. If you shop online, there are almost 10,000 SKUs of Megabass products alone, with hundreds of other companies and new products being added daily. So next time you're looking for that hard to find bait, that color your fish have never seen before, or maybe you just want to elevate your game, look at thehookuptackle.com. Welcome back, my friends. I am Ben with the Hookup Tackle, the Tackle Taku on Instagram, being joined by my best drinking buddy, CJ at Desert Bassin. Cheers to you, my friend.
Cheers.
How are you?
I am good. How are you, man?
I'm fantastic. I got a cold, delicious Orion.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about fishing tackle.
Nothing better.
I mean,
Having a great time.
We're living the dream.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Here.
We could be fishing, but it's also 110 degrees out there, and I'm done.
Yeah, I'll just drink a cold beer.
I'm over it. I know you were doing it all day, and still enjoying it, still loving it.
Oh, I love it. It's all about the grind, but it's still hot as hell.
Yeah, I've had enough. I'm going to be that guy now. I'm just going to complain for another 5 days until it cools.
I like it.
At least to 105, and then I'll go back out.
You'll be a lot happier at the end of October.
October. Yeah. Oh,
so
God.
sad to say.
Yeah, so much longer. We are going to break down finesse jerkbaits today. This is a topic that we don't talk about a lot because we find that the true finesse kind of lives in this gray area, right? You've got, your traditional lures, your traditional techniques, and in the lure realm, specifically jerkbaits, that's usually 3/8 to 1/2 ounce stuff. So when we're talking like an Edovision 110, Pointer 100, even if we drop down to what would be considered the junior versions of those, like to an Edovision Junior Pointer 78, right? We're really only going from a 1/2 ounce to a 3/8 ounce. So we're still kind of living in a normal full-size bait, even though they're smaller. When we start talking trout or BFS, then we're talking about like great huntings and Isons and Smith decontacts, and we're talking about like 2 gram, 3 gram. Like that's so small. Not that it's not applicable, but it's a whole other world, right? So today what we're talking about is we're bridging the gap between those two worlds, between that trout BFS world and the conventional world is what we consider finesse, which is kind of living in that 3/16 to 1/4 ounce realm, small baits that probably are going to need to be thrown on spinning gear or super, super dialed casting gear. And we'll talk about that on all of these baits that we break down today. But the importance of including some finesse jerk baits for me is similar to our crankbait conversation. By the way, if you didn't catch the finesse crankbait conversation, maybe CJ will leave a link right here somewhere, and you can check it out. So we basically do the same kind of conversation we're having today, but on smaller finesse crankbaits. The importance of going downsize in your jerkbaits is there's just times where one of two things for me happen. Either the fish get super picky on bait size, and this happens a lot, right? They get really keyed in on a specific size of bait, a specific movement of bait, where the bait is just, it's 1 inch big or 2 inches big, or it's just got a real tight, small little movement, not a big aggressive swim to it. And they'll just get picky and they'll shy away from full size or traditional sized offerings. There's also a time where, they just turn into bitches and they just won't eat what they should eat, right? It should be wide open jerkbait fishing and the fish are following, and you'll you'll see them and they'll follow your stuff. You're like, why aren't they eating it? And you try stuff, you change colors, you change cadence, you put a feather treble on the back, and nothing happens. They're just following you or they're just ignoring you completely. Those are times when sometimes you have to downsize to get the bite. And the reason why they're following and not committing could be all kinds of things, right? It could be pressure. It could be pressure from fishermen. It could be pressure from the universe, maybe moon phase or time of day. And they're just not super juiced. Something is preventing them from committing and eating it. And a lot of times downsizing will get you some bites that throwing traditional full-size baits won't. Sum it up, right?
Science.
It's science, baby. So today, there's all kinds of baits that you can include in this realm. So just to make it simple, in case any of you are new to this category, we chose our 5 favorites. Right, and it just gives us a chance to drink a couple of beers and shoot the shit.
Yeah, this video's really
we could have just
here.
broke it down for like 2 or 3 maybe, but then what kind of drinking is that going to include?
Yeah, 5 is a lot longer than 3, I'll tell you.
We're already out of moonshine. Moonshine lasted literally 3 days.
Oof.
Yeah, who would drink it all?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. All right, so let's just jump right in, shall we?
Let's do it. I'm excited
All right.
for this one.
So number 1. Now, you know what? I'm going to do this in my pick. Now, your top 5 might be a completely different order depending on what you need or where you guys are logistically. But this is a top 5 for me, and I'll explain each one why it's the way it is. So for me, number 1, when we're talking small jerkbaits, is this guy. This is the Megabass X-Nanahan or X75. Now, the reason for me that this guy is number 1, well, there's a couple reasons. So first off, you'll notice that this is available in a X-Nanahan. It's also available in X-Nanahan Plus 1. It's also available in X-Nanahan Plus 2. So there's 3 different baits here. There's a regular diver. It's going to go 2 to 4 feet. There's a Plus 1 that's going to get you into that 7 to 9 foot. And there's a Plus 2 that's going to get you 10 plus. You can essentially cover the same water column that you could with the 110 line. If you're catching them good on a regular 110, they shy away, you could go with just a regular X-Nanahan. If you're catching them good on a 110 plus 1 and they shy away, or you need to downsize, you could go with the X-Nanahan plus 1. If you're catching them good on the plus 2 and you need to downsize, you can go to the X-Nanahan plus 2. It's so easy. It's just a very simple system. And because I'm a huge fan of the 110, this is a super important one for me. So I'm going to go with, let's go with this guy just because it's a little clearer and I think we'll be able to see it. This is a bait that was designed by Megabass to give the exact same action, the same movement underwater as the original 110. Right? Now, a lot of guys, when they downsize from a 110, they go from a 110 to a 110 Junior. Right? The 110 Junior is still over 90 millimeters. So this is getting you all the way down to 75 millimeters. So it's a really genuine downsize from a 110. This is a big difference. In fact, let me go grab a 110. I'll show you. Here,
Yeah, let's
this for
compare
a second.
size here.
Yeah.
I like this. This is so fun. Here you go. Check that thing out. Oh, maybe? If I can focus? No? No. There she is.
Got fancy videographer stuff.
Super
going
fancy
on.
videographer science stuff going on here. Wow.
You must look amazing.
Pretty sure it's out of focus.
Great. Okay. Well, you've been drinking.
That's all right.
All right. So here's a regular 110, right? So sometimes when they just shy away from it, a lot of guys will drop down to a 110 Junior. Now, what's funny is in the store, like if you walk over there to the aisle, these look like 2 very different sizes, right? Because marketing, right? Notice the package is a lot smaller. So visually in your head, you're thinking, oh, this one's a lot smaller. But when you actually take the baits out of the package, hold that for me.
Yes, sir.
There's a 110.
See if I can get it this time. There she is.
Here's a 110 Junior. They're not that much different. The packaging, very different.
That's very deceiving.
The bait itself, not that much different. So for me, I've never really, I do. We sell gazillions of plus 1 juniors or of 110 Juniors, and guys swear by it. Guys catch the shit out of them. If that's you, keep doing it. right? But for me, this isn't a true downsize. Like, it's a downsize, obviously, but I don't think I've ever met a fish that wouldn't eat this, that all of a sudden is going to magically eat this. Like, to me, in my head, that just doesn't make any sense. But to go from this to that, that's a big difference. Okay, that's a true downsize for me. To be able to get the same action that you get out of this, but in a bait that's this size, it's pretty magical, honestly. Yeah. And the other thing that's dope is because of its size, it's slept on a lot. A lot of guys are afraid of it, right? So that's the other importance of making a video like this is I don't want you guys to be afraid of throwing some of these tiny baits. What's cool about this X-Nanahan is it has a dual tungsten weight transfer system in it. Okay, so there's 2 weight transfer balls in here that you can see. I chose this color because it is semi-transparent. So when you go to cast, both of those tungsten balls go to the back. And then when you go to retrieve, they'll both slip forward so you'll get that same action and kind of nose down posture that a regular 110 does. The importance of that dual tungsten going back is that you can actually throw this on your normal jerkbait rod. So even though this only weighs 1/4 ounce, only 7 grams, I can throw this on my 110 stick or a jerkbait special or whatever jerkbait rod it is that you guys throw, it will throw on there. You might have to loosen up your reel just a little bit. You obviously want to be careful not to throw it into too much of a headwind, but it will throw just as far as a regular 110 for me once I get it, you know, the cadence adjusted to my casting stroke. So super dope. There's a lot of great colors in this bait as well. There's a lot of colors that you don't find in regular 110s. For me, no brainer. When it comes to downsizing, this is just a logical starting point because most of the time I'm throwing a 110. This is a great downsize. This is the X-Nanahan in either the original, the +1, or the +2 version from Megabass. Number 2 for me, this is kind of where it starts getting cloudy, and any of these could be good options for you. This is one that you trout guys are definitely going to want to pay attention to. This is the Lucky Craft Pointer 65. Okay, now the Pointer 65 comes, I know I have 3 different baits here. So the reason I do is because it comes in a regular version. It also comes in a DD version. Okay, so deep diver. It also comes in a Japan package, and in Japan they call the pointer the B-freeze. So if you're wondering what's a B-freeze or what's a pointer, they're the same thing. Okay, so in the United States we call it a pointer minnow. In Japan they call it a B-freeze. No idea why they didn't just keep it B-freeze. Would have been so simple just to keep it B-freeze. You know, so many words are kind of weird, right? When you bring them from one place to the other, that they probably just thought, pointer minnow makes more sense, right? So we've always had the pointer minnow. We're starting to get more JDM type or JDM Lucky Craft offerings. So when you see B-freeze come up, it's the same thing. Now, why this bait? Well, this one's kind of got a sweet spot in my heart. When I was guiding, Lucky Craft was really like the main brand. I mean, Megabass was obviously still like, oh man, Megabass. But it was really hard to get. It just wasn't readily available, right? Whereas Lucky Craft was really making a huge splash. And a jerkbait is such an easy thing to give somebody that's just beginning in fishing, because it stays relatively high in the column, doesn't really sink to the bottom and snag a lot of things. All you gotta do is tell them just give it some jerk and wind in the slack, right? And even if they suck at it and they wind too much, they jerk too hard, or they jerk too soft, it's always down there doing something, right? Even if it's just moving up or down or moving, it's doing something. It's moving and drawing attention to it, right? So, you know, the Pointer 78s and the Pointer 65s were critical for me in guiding because they were the easiest baits I could find to just get bites. When I knew fishing just sucked, I could just take a spinning rod and a Pointer 65 and a Pointer 65 DD and just run down any bank, and there will be some fish trying to eat some little minnow eventually, right? I mean, if you cover enough ground, there will be a fish wanting to eat a little minnow. And that's essentially what this is. Now, the Pointer 65, just to spec it out for you, You're at 65 millimeters. You're at 5 grams. So you're at 3/16 of an ounce here. Okay, so you're a little bit smaller bait because obviously you're at 65 millimeters. The X-Nanahan was at 75 millimeters. And you're also at 5 grams instead of 7 grams. No weight transfer system here. Okay, so this is a very difficult one. I would say pretty much impossible one to throw on casting gear well. So this is definitely like a spinning rod, but this is also one of the most popular jerk baits in Japan for trout. It's an amazing trout bait too. If you watched any of our Trout Week stuff, you know, Hunter, who you went to Utah with, lives on this thing, right? So it's an amazing one for fishing in current. It's an amazing one. So if you guys are fishing streams or rivers, you should definitely have these in the arsenal. It's big enough to where it's drawing a presence, but it's small enough to where it's still downsized that you can do delicate things like trout fish. But it's just a great pond, largemouth. Anytime they're in the shallows, it's a great one for that. Number 2, Pointer 65 for sure. That is on my list.
It's versatile bait for sure. Like watching them work that in current, which is hard to work a jerkbait in. And that thing didn't sacrifice any action in moving current. It's pretty impressive.
One of the reasons why is Lucky Craft. Lucky Craft is one of the few brands that actually suspends true. So most brands will say suspend, but suspend means different things in different brands, right? I mean, take Megabass, for instance. It says suspend on a 110. I don't think I've ever had a 110 suspend. They're almost always a slow flow.
Yeah.
In some cases, they might even be a slow sink.
Yeah.
But they're so finely tuned to a very specific water temperature that once the water temperature goes above or below that, they have a tendency to kind of slow float up. And it's part of the magic of that bait.
Sure, absolutely.
Lucky Crafts suspend perfectly horizontal. So when you're fishing a river system or anything that's got some current to it, it's a great one for that because it stays horizontal. So as it's getting washed down, it's staying in position for the next movement, right? Whereas when you have a bait that's kind of nose down, like a 110, and then it's floating up and the current's moving it, it's kind of getting washed out. So when you go to jerk again, it's not quite right in the right place.
Yep.
Whereas this one can kind of maintain that depth, right? And then be ready to go again. So
yeah, I mean, it's so important for trout because they're looking at that small zone, you know, and they need a bait that sits there for a second.
It's a great one.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So number 2, Pointer 65. All right, number 3. This is kind of a tie for me. Is that light driving you crazy?
A little bit. It's
okay.
Really making you glow here.
Well, are you sure it's not the beer?
Oh, could be. It's pretty magical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're good. It's got a nice little halo to you.
Yeah?
You look great.
All right,
nice
let's keep going. We're talking about jerkbait, so it should be glowing a little bit. All right. Number 3 for me can go either way. And I'm going to tell you that depending on what you're fishing for is how I would choose this next one. For me, it's a tie between the OSP Durga and the Duo Realis Rozante. Okay, and I'm going to talk about both of them. So let's start right here. Let's talk about the OSP Durga. The Durga is a killer suspending, really finesse jerkbait. So this is 73 millimeters. Okay, so it's about the same length as the X-Nanahan, the first one, but it's only 4.7 grams. So it's even lighter still than the Pointer 65. Okay, now what's dope about OSP baits, the color palette is huge. So you've got naturals, you've got clears, you've got totally transparent, you've got pearlescence, you've got shiny, you've got matte. So literally there is a bait for every single possible situation you can imagine, right? So that's what's super dope about OSP is you can really just geek out and build yourself a crazy cool arsenal with this stuff, right? Now, this is what I would consider to be a true minnow profile. It's super skinny, it's long, it's thin. It's just a really finesse, more like a true shoreline minnow would look, right? When you see a little baby shad or a baby bluegill or baby perch, they're usually about this long and they're about that tall too, right? They're usually more about the same width as they are long. When you see a minnow, they're obviously longer and thinner, and that's what this is giving you the illusion of. For me, this is spinning rod all day. I would never even try to attempt this on a casting rod, Of course, BFS is different. You could BFS the shit out of this thing, but you're not going to throw this on like on your 110 stick, for instance, right? So you're below 3/16 of an ounce. It's really finesse. This has got a really erratic darting motion to it. So you're going to give it a couple jerks, and sometimes it's going to go left and right. Sometimes you're going to give it a couple jerks, it's going to go up and down or right and up, right? So it's super erratic, just like a minnow would be in the water trying to escape, where it just has this ability to like move really fast and you're not even sure how it moved that way. This is kind of the same way. An excellent, excellent trout bait. Works great in the streams. Same as that pointer 65 we talked about. It suspends horizontally. So it's a great one anytime there's current, because it's going to get washed down. It's going to maintain the depth and its position, and it's ready to move at the same time that you go to jerk it. So it's a really responsive one. Can also work great in lakes when you need to keep it really high over grass. Everybody knows that I'm a huge fan of like the Lucky Craft slender pointers over grass. This is a great like downsized version. This could almost be like a Lucky Craft slender pointer 73. 73.
There
right?
you go.
Is that what we said?
I think
73.
so, yeah.
Yeah. Right? So same kind of idea. It stays high. It's erratic. It jerks out of grass really easy. So anytime you need to keep it in that shallow zone but still have a true suspend, it is a really finesse offering. The Durga is a great one. So that's from OSP. That's number 3 for me, the Durga from OSP. Didn't you catch a giant trout on a Durga?
I did catch a good one on a Durga.
Yeah,
I think it was
little stream, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, it was tiny. I mean, it was out of this little pool. I think it was like, the fish was like 25 inches, I think is what we came up with. Yeah, we marked it on the net and measured it later. It was crazy.
Yeah,
Some
that's
caveman
so sick.
stuff.
Was that your first, that was your first trip out to film the guys?
Yeah, that was our first trip.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, I guess it was. Wow, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I was impressed. I was
so
happy.
you're a fan of the Durga?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're so easy to work, too.
They are. Instant, I mean, we covered it. It's a great bait.
It is, really is.
Okay, number 3 also.
Yeah.
It's tie.
Yeah.
It's tie. Yeah. Number
There's a lot
3
of math
/
going
4.
on right
yeah,
now.
I know. I feel like Ethan over here.
Oh, geez.
The Duo Realis Rozante. This is available in 2 sizes. There is a 63 size and there is a 77 size in here. So both are great. Now, the reason I said depending on what you're after will depend on where you want to go with this. For me, the Durga is a better trout bait. And there's a lot of people that are angry at me right now because Duo is a super famous trout brand, right? Look, if you're catching trout on this, keep throwing it. It's great. But for me, this is an excellent bass downsize jerkbait. Okay, let me find a clear one here. Here we go. So what's dope about the Rozante is similar to the X-Nanahan. It has a built-in weight transfer system in it. So you can see it's a super tiny bait. Let me spec it out for you. So there's 2 sizes. This is the 63 that I have in my hand. 63 millimeters, 5 grams. The 77 is 77 millimeters, 8 grams. Okay, so you're just over a 1/4 ounce. Okay, they have a magnetic weight transfer. So there's a little magnet here, right, that's holding that weight in there. But when you cast it, it's going to release, and you're going to see there's this weight transfer ball down there. And as soon as you start jerking it, it's going to slide down and lock in place, and now it's locked in place. Okay, so you can take a small little bait like this and you can whip it out there on casting gear and actually be able to fish. It actually has amazing castability. It doesn't really flounder up because it's so small. It cuts through the wind. You get great little accurate casts. It's not going to bomb as far as the X-Nanahan will, or like a 110 or .100, but it bombs pretty good. Okay, so you can throw this on your 110 stick, on your normal jerkbait rod. The 77 for sure. Right, because you're going to get a little bit bigger bait, a little bit bigger weight transfer system. The 63 is more of a, you can cast it, but it's more of a finesse or specific lane approach for me. You can also fish it in river systems, but for me, this is really a great one for still water when I need to downsize, but still get a really long cast. It's going to have a pretty normal side-to-side dog walk under the water. Suspends great, casts great. All kinds of colors, from bluegills to clear bait fish to wakasagi type patterns. So again, a great one to add when you're needing to downsize. And again, I mean, it's a pretty big downsize. This is a 110 junior. right? There's the Rozante. So this is a big difference in downsizing from one to the other. So when they get picky, this could be a really good one. So from Duo, number 3/4, the Rozante 63 or 77, depending on what you need. Number 5, to complete the list, this is a really interesting one, slept on super hard. Our first 100mm offering. All right, so think pointer 100, right? And we're talking about finesse jerkbaits here, right? Well, this is from Imakatsu. This is the Imakatsu Dardo 100. So this is a very unique bait. It's an 8 gram, so it's right at that 1/4 ounce. All kinds of colors. I brought a couple so you could see that, you know, there's some brighter colors, there's some golds, there's some shads. Not nearly the huge color line that something like an OSP will have. So where OSP might have 47 different color options, you know, Imakatsu is going to have 6 or 8 in their Dardo. This is a really cool bait because it's truly a finesse jerkbait weighing at a 1/4 ounce, right? So just to give you an idea, here's the Dardo at 100, right?
Those hooks look so sticky.
Here's the Edovision 110 at 110. You can see it's similar in length, but when you look at the overall profile of this bait, it's a much smaller bait. Much skinnier, much more minnow-like. What's cool about this also is it keeps you in a 3-hook bait, and you're right, they are super sticky. You're gonna get kind of that TD minnow type action. You can throw this on your traditional casting gear, so your 110 stick, your jerkbait special, whatever you're throwing, but you're gonna get an ultra finesse, tight, erratic movement from a long minnow profile jerkbait that's gonna just be different enough than what they're used to seeing in a pointer 100, in an Edovision 110. 2 completely different sounds too, right? So like a 110's got a lot of stuff happening in it, right? Dardo, almost nothing, right? So very different. So you've still got just a little bit of shad click happening in this one, but just a much more natural, lifelike profile with 3 hooks. So if you get fish that are just kind of slapping at it or, you know, just kind of being lazy, you're going to hook them. And then, you know, obviously up to you at that point to get them in. I hope the drag's set right. Hope you're playing it right. But it's a really cool bait. It's really slept on. I think you guys would have a lot of success with it. Definitely one that you guys want to fish more in still water. So this is more of a lake situation, big water type situation where you need to just downsize the overall profile, but keep some length, right? So if I'm just trying to downsize everything, obviously it would make more sense for me to go with an X-Nanahan, a Rozante pointer, something like that. But if I want to keep a little bit of length, keep those 3 hooks, overall downsize the offering, this can be a great one. And it's something different that very few anglers are going to do. Imakatsu is one of those brands that Griffin and I talk about all the time. They make such amazing stuff. It's probably, even though I would say almost every angler in the world knows Imakatsu.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're in Japan, you know Imakatsu. If you're in the US and you're into JDM tackle, you know Imakatsu. But very few people talk about it. It's one of those strange brands that makes amazing stuff, but it gets bypassed for the Megabass or the OSP or the depths, right? It's one of those that when you guys find a bait that you think would fit in your arsenal, you're going to be one of the few people actually utilizing it, and pretty much everything they make is highly effective. So number 5 for me, the Dardo 100 from Imakatsu.
Well, buy their stuff, guys. Help them out. Come on.
Yeah.
Help them out.
All right, guys, that is a wrap for us. If you guys have any questions on anything we covered, drop it down below. Just as a little side note, I will tell you that all of the baits that we showed you guys today, all of the hooks are going to be smaller and more delicate than what you're used to in a traditional 110 or pointer 100, which are small and delicate hooks to begin with. If you guys are going to be downsizing to some of these smaller baits, I would recommend you swap out the hooks, right? Because they're going to be really light wire. So I would definitely recommend swapping them. But remember that when the companies build these baits, they build them for light line. So when they build, I mean, for instance, the 110 was built for 8 pound, So these hooks, you hear a lot of people say, oh, those hooks bend out. Well, they were built for 8-pound. That was the point of this bait. So if you're throwing it on 10-pound or throwing it on 12-pound, you're already putting more pressure than what they were built to do. So it's on you if you're having a problem with it, right? So remember, when you're using baits like this, these guys were built for 6-pound, 7-pound, 8-pound lines. So if you're throwing it on heavier gear, if you're throwing it on braid, if you're throwing it on 10-pound or whatever, remember, back off the drag, play it soft because you don't want these things to break or straighten out, or change the hooks, and then you'll be good. Again, if you guys have any questions, drop them down below. We'll definitely get to it. CJ will leave links to these baits. If you guys want to check any of them out closer, you can. Until next time, guys, on behalf of myself and CJ, Carmen, Louise, and everybody here at The Hookup, thank you guys for your support. Thank you for your business. Thank you for your time. And we will see you on another episode soon. CJ, thank you for drinking with me, sir.
I had a fun time.
Pleasure talking with you. Peace out, my friends.